Hey guys, Ryan here. In today's video, I'll be breaking down what I think are the best SMGs in Warzone right now. I like to break my SMGs into three categories. Ones that are for more aggressive people that use them with ARs. Second is going to be sniper support. And then I'm going to have a list of SMGs that can fill either role and are just really good overall. So if you're looking for a particular SMG for your type of playstyle, because you want to run it with your AK or you want to run it with your sniper, go down in the description. You can skip ahead or you can just watch the whole video. I do just want to say thank you for watching this video. If you do like it, you don't have to like the video, you don't have to subscribe, but if you do, it really helps out the channel. And once again, I just want to say thank you for watching. But let's get into it. So my top 5 aggressive SMGs are going to be the OTS9, Cold War MP5, the Fennec, Modern Warfare MP5, and in solos and duos, the nail gun. Now keep in mind, this is for people who want to run their SMGs with an AR and are a little more aggressive. These are the type of SMGs I'd recommend. The MAC-10 can also fit into this, and any of the SMGs in the all-around SMG category I'm going to get into later can be used as an aggressive SMG as well. So it's not just these 5, so keep that in mind. But these 5, if you're talking about within 0 and 15 meters, these things are on top. They destroy. They're some of the best guns for aggressive players because of their mobility and strength. The OTS9 is on top because to me, the overall damage, the overall mobility between 0 and 15 meters is unbeatable. If you can hit upper chest shots, even a couple headshots, you will destroy. Now, the Cold War MP5 is really good. It has a really high time to kill compared to most SMGs, but it has a little higher kick and has just a little weird feel to it, and it's just not as good as the OTS. It's still really good, and if you don't have the OTS leveled up or it's just something you prefer, it's more than viable and it can almost certainly hang. Now, moving on to the Fennec. The Fennec is honestly really slept on right now. It has super good damage up close. It's on par with a lot of guns. The only issue is its low magazine size. So to get around that, I like to run Sleight of Hand with it. But it's tough to fit it into a build. And speaking of that, I will have all attachments and build down below in the comments and in the description to help people out. Now, I really like the Modern Warfare MP5. It's still really good, even after nerfs is received. And if that's a gun that you've enjoyed using in the past, then feel free to use it. One of the main things about the meta right now is almost anything is viable, and it's just going to go way beyond just a list of these 5 guns. There's so many good guns right now, and while there's going to be a couple that are better than others, keep your mind open, and if you feel more comfortable with the gun, do use it. And that's the case for the Modern Warfare MP5. If you really like that gun, do just use it because it is really good. Now lastly, to round off the aggressive SMGs, I'm going to talk about the nail gun. Now the nail gun is mainly used for solos and duos, but in that space, one of the best guns to use. It has insane mobility. It has a really good feel between 0 and 10 meters, but it has a lot of drawbacks beyond that. You can't put attachments on it. It has a super low magazine. It has a low rate of fire, so you have to be really accurate. It's definitely high skill, but if you can use it, if you like it, it's definitely more than viable. It's just maybe not something that I'd really recommend using if you're just not feeling good with it or if you don't feel comfortable using it. It's not worth it, and there's a bunch of other good options. Now, when I get into the other SMGs later for the best all-around list, any of those can be used in the same way. Even though they're not going to be as good between 0 and 10 meters, they may be even better between 10 and 20 meters, and they're going to be more than viable between 0 and 10 meters. That's one of the main things, is there's a lot of viability, there's a lot of different options, and I'm going to cover them all. So now let's talk about sniper support SMGs. Now, these are going to be really good in the mid-range as well as being pretty decent up close. So at number 1, we're going to have the MAC-10. At number 2, we're going to have the PPSH. At the number 3 spot, we're going to have both the Mp7 and CX9. I'm going to kind of have them together. Then moving past that, we're going to have the Milano and Bullfrog. Some people have been scared off of those guns because of the nerfs to them, but I promise they're still good and they're more than good enough to be used right now. Now, as a heads up, for the most part, I do think ARs like the XM4 and AK can sometimes beat these SMGs as sniper supports, but this video is focused on SMGs, so that's what I'm going to stick to right now. So let's get into number 1, the MAC-10, and why I think it's so good. The MAC-10 has a ton of mobility, it's super good damage-wise, and if you can just even hit any headshot or upper chest, you're going to really melt kids. You're going to also find this gun on the overall SMG list because it just is one of the best guns to use right now in the entire game. Now, moving on to number 2, the PPSH is really, really good, and I'd really recommend for people to use it, but it's very similar to the Mac-10 in a lot of ways, and it's going to come down to kind of personal preference. Now, where the PPSH is better is beyond 15 meters, but where the Mac-10 is better is going to usually be between 0 and 10 meters based on the way the fight plays out. Now, that's not necessarily always going to be the case, and a lot of it's going to be personal preference, but I just want to give a little heads up. So now let's move on to the third SMGs, and that's going to be the CX9 and Mp7 as a dual combo. I really, really like these guns right now. The Mp7 will also be on the best overall SMG list at the end, but the CX9 and Mp7 as sniper supports are really, really good. They have a really crisp feel. They feel really good in the mid-range. The only thing they kind of lack on in comparison to colder SMGs is going to be their mobility. While I did stress mobility for a lot of the other SMGs, these guns do lack a little bit in the mobility department, but they more than make up for it for their overall just feel. I really mean it. I really stress feel as being a really important thing, so just make sure that you understand that when I talk about these guns. Now, to kind of talk about the last two, the Milano and the Bullfrog, I'm going to kind of talk about them in a similar manner. It's not that they're exactly on the same level, but even after the recent nerfs they've both received, they're both really, really good right now. And if you enjoyed using either of these in the past and you're kind of scared off by the nerfs or just whatever, I'd still recommend using them because I found great success with both and they both feel really good. The Bullfrog is still good. It lost a little of its mobility and kind of its overall quickness feel, but it still has that damage in the mid-range. And the same thing with the Milano. The Milano does not feel as good damage-wise, but it still feels more than good enough with the way the overall meta feels. So let's move on to the final 5. Now, these aren't going to necessarily be the best overall SMGs. These are just going to be SMGs you can use almost no matter what. So at number 1, you have the Mac-10 and the OTS-9. At number 2, the Mp7. Number 3 is going to be the Bullfrog. Number 4, Milano. And to round it off is the colder Mp5. So at number 1, the reason why I have the Mac-10 and the OTS together is going to be because they really are just super good in their own right in both ways. And I'm not saying they're objectively actually the best, but I just feel like feel-wise, they're some of the best right now. In terms of the most picked SMGs, the Bullfrog is actually number 1, and the Mac-10 is just right behind it. Now, I do think that might change a little bit, and it does seem like the Bullfrog is holding on strong even after the nerfs, because the nerfs weren't really that substantial. That's why I have the Bullfrog at number 3 on this list. And as for number 2, the Mp7, the reason I have it so high is because I just think it's actually really slept on right now. It just has a certain feel about it, and I'm not saying it's really the second best SMG, but I do think in terms of SMGs I think people should be using and that could be used in almost any class or any situation, it's one of the best right now. I think it's just kind of being slept on because it's not too popular and hasn't been for a while. But if you do use it, I think you're going to understand what I mean. I think maybe I'm even overrating it because it's a lot easier for me to get headshots and I've been playing a little bit of Iron Trials. But recently, I've really, really enjoyed using it. I've really enjoyed using it with a good hipfire build. And I've really enjoyed the movement you can get with it if you do hipfire and if you just use it as a good kind of overall mid-range build. Now, as I mentioned before with the Bullfrog, it's still really good. It's one of the most popular SMGs. The nerfs may have changed the mobility a little bit, but nothing has really changed that much. Same with the Milano. That's why I also have it number 4. It's still awesome. It still melts people. It just has a really kind of good feel between 0 and 15 meters and between 15 and 20 meters. But it also kind of lacks a lot of oomph up close sometimes. But because of the nerfs to the OTS and the colder Mp5 and the Modern Warfare Mp5, it's now a lot more competitive and it doesn't feel as weak as it did before. And the colder Mp5 is another gun that's kind of creeping up. Now, it's a really weird gun, but it has a really high skill cap. Because with 1 or 2 headshots, the time to kill on this thing is absolutely outrageous, and it's insanely good. I think it's being slept on in a lot of ways, but I also think the issue is it comes with a kind of little bit of a skill curve. And that's some of the other issue, is some of these other guns are a lot easier to use, and that's why I have them rated so high. Because I do just think overall feel and the ease of use for a gun is really important. While it is important for your guns to have raw time to kill, the most important part is if your shots are hitting the person. Because if you can hit your shots, then they're just going to die. It doesn't really matter too much about the raw time to kill if you're just not hitting those shots. So that's why I'm recommending a lot of these guns. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. You don't have to like, you don't have to subscribe. I just want to say thank you for watching the video. Hope you have a good day. It's been Ryan. Peace.